Hey everybody, this is Hezues Garcia. Here we are with my good friend Hezues R. Also, my name is Jesus too, so we got along really well. Just a quick thing. I wanted to, I've known him, I don't know, 2, 3 years for now, and I really wanted to, and every time I'm in New York, I reach out to him. He's such a great, heartfelt dude, and I wanted to give you a quick intro from, I wanted to give you, and then he'll talk about himself. And I really wanted him to give me a health, mind, body, and soul kind of feel about, he can talk about himself and what's going on with him and how he sees things from his perspective. But Hezues R is a pioneer media entrepreneur with experience, insight, and unique sensibilities in production. He's got great movies coming out, advertising and product development, and he's called the Latino Mogul in the making. So he's got some great films. I did see a piece of Asian Mob when I was going to China. I was trying to get the people to buy that film. It's a great, beautiful piece of what I saw. And he's got Suicide Saints. Is Suicide Saint coming out yet, or is that?
No, we wanted to shoot last year in 2020, but with COVID and everything, we pushed it back to this year. So we're looking, and I'm
So
very specific about the time frame. It has to be shot in the fall.
so here he
Um,
is, Hezues R. Hezues R, take over. And if I want to press on some things, I'll jump in. But go for it.
Thank you. First of all, it's such an honor and a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Um, and I do say I have a lot of respect and admiration for the energy and the intention that you have in our world today. So many people are just focused on self, and I will see you um, reaching out and trying to be an inspiration and trying to improve people's perspective and the quality of their life. So I appreciate this conversation. Thank you in advance. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about what we have coming up this year. In addition to myself as a director in my career, focusing on films, one of my bigger initiatives this year is growing and expanding the film school that I launched in 2019, which is called the SICK Film School. SIC stands for Social Impact Content. And that's in line pretty much with my career as a filmmaker and the focus that I have and the intention that I have behind all the projects that I create, whether it's in film, short films, music videos, commercials, any type of narrative and influence in society. Um, I try to interject something that's going to inspire us in a positive way. And to your point of mind, body, and soul, us as artists, we feed our souls collectively by the art we're able to create, and hopefully we're able to spark something in the soul of others. And in terms of our mind, I would love to talk about, just film itself being one of the most influential mediums in society, and how we look at ourselves and look at each other, indicated by the things that we learn in film, right? From being children and watching cartoons, everything, our social norms, all of this as, there's kind of social and cultural standards that come across in the content that we create and then consume. So feel free to let me know where you want to
Yeah,
start. Or
so let's tell the audience, my people, like who you are and how you moved to where you are now, because I know you have a long, you've overcome some things that I think can help other people as well. And so let's start there and then we'll take off.
Sure, and I'll get right to it. I mean, a lot of times I'm not as forthcoming, but in the comfort that I have talking to you, and because we've talked about this a lot, and we talk about light and darkness and energy and the things that change us. When I was 22 years old, I was shot at 22 times. It was 2:22 in the morning. It was 22 shots fired, like I said, and I had out of three different guns, I still had a 22 slug in my stomach. I got hit by 9 and 45 and the 22. But for me, there was kind of like a science. And I still got the 22 right here. There was kind of like a science. It felt like there was a divine purpose for me to survive that and overcome it. And that it meant something on a higher level. If it wasn't so, if the signs weren't there in such a profound way, maybe I might have missed it. Being programmed or conditioned to a certain lifestyle or environment, things happen to you and you just kind of go with it, or you react, or you program to react to it in a different way. But for me, shortly after that, it wasn't an immediate change, but it started to make me look at my community environment in a different way as I lost more friends and people who weren't friends to gun violence, even later that summer.
And this is where?
This happened in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie, and you were born where?
In Poughkeepsie. My family, I was almost born in South America because my family's from Uruguay, and my mother was back and forth at the time, but I was born in Poughkeepsie and then almost immediately went back. So a lot of my early upbringing was in Uruguay. And
By the way, we got a lot of friends and they tune in. So say hi to Uruguay.
Yeah, what's up? I would go down every year up until the last couple of years. I haven't been in about 3 years, but I still have a house in Montevideo and then another house by the beach on Punta del Este. So anybody down in Uruguay, what's up?
Uruguay, te quiero. Ay.
So it's something that still plagues the city today. In the fall of last year, I was called up by the mayor to do a press conference and talk about ways to address gun violence. Outside of my work in film, I do a lot of give back and community work directly through nonprofits like Guns for Cameras that I founded, and I have worked with the United Nations for 2 decades as an ambassador. In this past year, being representative of their Safer Cities program, speaking at World Cities Day. But my background, I had a very rough upbringing in terms of the decisions I made and the things that I was influenced or involved with. And for what I look at in society today, a lot of people don't have to. Some people are just forced into circumstances, and a lot of people, by their choices and their actions, they put themselves in those circumstances. And I think that's a lot in terms of how we're influenced in what young kids today think is cool and what they think they should be doing. And a lot of it is avoidable. I think most violence is senseless. The grievances that we have, that sometimes we take other people's lives, are over temporary situations or something that are, in a big scheme of things, are very petty. So
what's interesting is I can segue with what's your what's your feel about what's going down now, based on
I'm texting my wife because I have a little visitor.
Oh yeah, I'm telling my viewers, yeah, you got to be careful because he just had a newborn baby, right? When?
Yeah, let me bring my little precious one.
Kids in here. We love kids, dude.
Let me grab her. Oh, she's banging hard too. Come on in.
So these are his kids.
Okay. We're live. Come sit with Daddy. Come on.
So when did you have hi?
So this is my biggest one. This is Helena.
Helena, hi. Say hi to a lot of people.
This is her first, I guess, public appearance on social media, because I usually very private about family, but you're like family to me, brother. So I'm happy to bring her in our conversation. This is Helena. She's my eldest.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah, say hi. He's over there. Say hi.
My dress is wet.
Oh yeah, you got a little stain here.
Yeah, but here my dress is wet.
What'd you spill?
A little water on my dress.
Okay. We're talking about life right now and what's important in life. What's important to you?
I want to play.
You want to play?
Yeah.
You always want to play.
I want to play with you, Daddy.
Okay, but Daddy's having a conversation now.
Is she able to go to school? Helena, have you gone to school, or is that Zoom school?
School.
Zoom, yeah, she hasn't gone in person to school yet.
Right.
Her have a son as well, who's 2.
Daddy, I go to school already.
Yeah, but on the Zoom, on the computer, not in person.
Whoa, you're so high up.
Yeah.
I want to get down.
Okay, you can get down. Okay? You gonna go with mommy?
Yeah, honestly,
You can take it. Yeah, let me. I don't know if you want to take a break, because I'll have to. If she stays in here, she'll play the whole time. Let me just
go ahead. No, go ahead, and then I'll talk. Tell people where we met. I'll tell them a little bit about that.
Okay, come on, Helena. Her favorite thing I always get her is chocolate. Helena, you want some chocolate?
Yes.
Oh yeah, come on.
Mom is in the kitchen.
I know. We'll sneak in there. Come on.
So, Jesus and I, well, first of all, what was going on is we were at the Four Seasons having a buffet. I was invited to eat there. The Four Seasons buffet in, we used to take JR there. So during the sort of like 2-3 years after he passed, I was going to Four Seasons, kind of remembering JR, having pancakes and all that. And the table next to me was like all these, multi-racial colored people, Puerto Ricans, everything, blacks, whites, everybody. And it was really vibrant, filled with life. And then Jesus came over. We got him to come over with his producer friend. And so they were working for P. Diddy's, celebrating the vodka brand, whatever that brand is. And he does the commercials for, we're talking about the P. Diddy commercials that you would do. What was the vodka party that we ran into at Four Seasons?
Yeah, it was something.
Celebrating the something.
Yeah, it was one of the Ciroc parties. I was with Nick Storm.
Right. He came over to the table. We ended up talking. We really felt we were like-minded people, and we kept in touch. And then from then on, when I was in New York, I'd call him. And then there was another mutual friend of yours that we all got on a phone about, and he was reading Sat Mat books on Sawan Singh about the Shab Yoga. I couldn't believe it. The guy's in Arizona, and we were all talking, and we were all like, so I remember I was in the middle of 8th Street and or 8th Avenue, and by Columbus, the park, the Columbus Square. And we were just like chatting about this guy, spirit, I remember, and it was like wild. And then we've talked since after. So here we are. So my thing is so I really like when he and I talk, because it gives a different perspective, and we have the same heart, and a very interesting to be in his mind. What's your take on current events without citing on anything? How are you taking that? A lot of people get caught up in the news. Here's just the reason I ask is, I tell people, get off the news, get off the this and that, and really follow your intuition about what's, first listen to yourself before you go listening to a bunch of things that are being, we're being handled. So what do you have to?
Well, I think the first problem is that I've never seen people so divided, right? Even when you talk about politics, there's people who've been friends for 30 years who are divided or at odds, or there's family members or what have you. And I think that we're getting so caught up in the things from different opinions and different perspectives, and we're not in tune as much with what our commonalities are, right? I don't think anyone has an extremely malicious perspective either or. People are very passionate about their viewpoints. Of course, there are people out there that are more radical and that are just straight up racist or whatever, that they need to find their own path to I don't want to say correcting their viewpoints, but a lot of ignorance is taught, right? A lot of hate or ignorance is taught. So, and hurt other people. So a lot of the work that I do is in and around mental health, which is related to all these different social issues that I address.
Yeah, and please go into that as well.
Yeah. So, like my next film, Suicide Saint, is addressing mental health, and I took a year off to travel the country and see how mental health impacts different aspects of society, from going to methadone clinics in Baltimore and seeing how it impacts drug addiction and vice versa. But everything that we're facing right now in terms of this political divide, even just on the issues of science and wearing masks, anti-maskers and the anti-vaxxers, and like, it seems that we can't agree on anything. And I don't think that anybody on the opposite side of an issue that you're facing is inherently evil. I think they just have a different set of information or narrative, right? Like the same way we have a division in the different news networks that are just like completely different political views. People learn what's around them or what they grow up in an environment, and it doesn't make them bad people sometimes, right? Like everybody who supports Trump is not racist. I don't like the guy. I wouldn't vote for him, but I have friends who did vote for him. A lot of people are changing their tune now because, some of the things he's done in the recent weeks are just more kind of indicative of what we all, or most of us, saw from a different perspective, right? But I think everybody, or most people, they do want a quality of life, and some people, the hate that they have is coming from a place where maybe they have some sort of fear that there's going to be an infringement on their quality of life, however warped their perspective might be.
I mean, you said something that's interesting is I experience I go a little bit higher and say fear's running rampant.
Yes.
And what you're saying is commonality has some kind of scientific knownness, I know, and fear has transcended any kind of I know shit. I'm being run by this thing I'm afraid. And it's crazy.
And it all comes down to division, right? It's like this idea of divide and conquer. Whether there's somebody in place that is like pulling the strings and has an agenda and is benefiting from it, or if it's just human nature. What's the woman's? I don't know if her name is Jane Lynch, or forgive me, I completely forgot her name. But there's this woman older white woman who speaks a lot about racism, and she did some study, like it surfaced online recently, but she did some study. I don't know if it was in the 80s or 70s, but she had a classroom of all the kids were white, right? So before we even get into like the racism between black and white and social structure and class, and how infringing on people's opportunities, there was kids in the classroom that had brown eyes and kids in the classroom that had green eyes. And she did a study over the course of the week saying, you guys are kind of like in power or have these privileges and are, superior to the other kids. And over a couple of days, the way these kids started to treat each other was like outrageous. And then she, kind of flipped it and reversed it. And then, it was the same thing. So, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So a lot of times I think these issues are it too often we look for the things that divide us, whether it's our skin color, or if it could be something simple as eye color. If we were all one color and then we just had different color eyes, then we would start to segregate each other in that way. But we're divided.
Now we're segregating on masks, no mask, or
yeah. So it's like we find these differences to create some sort of hierarchy or create relevance or create, however we want to validate our importance. And I think we shouldn't be competing with each other so much. We should be collaborating with each other. Like the whole idea that we have all millions of souls across the planet that are all uniquely different. Like that's the journey, that's the experience of life, right? To have that infinite amount of possibilities, to have different conversations, experience, and viewpoints, and people coming up with their ideas or inventions or art or like whatever that they're creating. Like we've been given this God-given talent to create and have free thought and free will. And instead of getting so caught up in like the bullshit, I think we should all be focused on how can we make this world a better place, instead of everything to be about me, and me against you. And it's like, no, how can you help your neighbor? How can you help your stranger walking down the street? If you're creating films, how can you inspire society to think differently or change the narrative, or, inspire young kids not to pick up a gun and pick up a camera and create life, still like Guns for Cameras, like still point, aim, and shoot, but with something that, you know, creates life and opportunity and empowers other people. So I think we just all need to be, you know, for the betterment of our spirits, our mind, our body, our soul, kind of change our outlook and not have so much hate towards other people. If all the people are different, try to understand their viewpoint first before hating them, and then just try to have a conversation of seeing if there's a middle ground where you can agree to disagree, instead of just this extremely combative and, you know,
Well, one key. I'm listening to you now. One key that I believe, and I don't want to get too much into it, is the teacher started the experiment. The teacher started the problem. Now, even in the testing. So I believe media and social media and tech actually help cause, they are the teachers with their algorithms, and they play and let's.
oh yeah.
So I say, take the teacher out and let the kids play.
Yeah, look, I couldn't. I wish I had it in here. I couldn't agree with you more. I have a T-shirt that says "Art over algorithms." You know, it's one of the big.
What is it? What does it say?
It says "Art over algorithms."
That's right.
It's one of the big messages that I push, because I feel like in
I
media.
love that. I love that.
I'll send you one. Yeah.
Art over algorithm.
Yes. I could grab it real quick. I'll just
grab it.
We can, yeah.
I think this is it. The teacher is the algorithm, trying to continually experiment. And I think it should be teaching love, not, hey, you're different. Teach love, that we're all differentiated, but still loving. The teacher should be testing on loving, not eyeballs. Oh my God, that is a great t-shirt, dude. I love it.
Yeah, I'll send you one. I've been I haven't put them. Everybody asks them, you know, if I have it online for sale, but I've just been sending them as gifts when I do a lot of my interviews and news outlets and people in the industry.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I feel like media, all the arts, you know, it's perverted by profit so much that, you know, in art, like if you look at the Renaissance period, you know, whenever like some great art was created, like art, the purpose of art should be for the beautification of society, right? It should be something that you look at, that you're inspired, that becomes, you know, it enriches your life. Whether you think about things differently, or you kind of self-reflect, or, you know, whatever it is. But today it's such a business that every film, every gallery, everything is, you know, especially for the studios, everything is based on algorithms, because they're mitigating the risk of how much money they're going to invest in a project and then what the return they're going to get back on it. And they don't invest so much on the artistic merit or the impact that would have on a society, but rather the profit. And it's just really unfortunate, because when everybody's working and then they need that kind of escapism, if that's what it becomes now, it's not even about appreciating the art. And then the art that's supposed to create a balance for society, or some relief, or some inspiration, when that itself becomes an entire business and you know, career for people is entirely, you know, predicated on profit, then that doesn't serve us at all as a society. And right now I feel like Rome is burning. Like we are, and I don't want to be too pessimistic about it, but, you know, for mental health, suicide rates have increased 30% in the last 2 decades. They've increased 70% amongst youth, 10 to 16 years old. And during the pandemic, it's increased 200%. So if we're not collectively, if we don't have people that are really pushing to create a new agenda within the arts, and not everybody just getting on board to whatever the studio or the money, the spending or the profits, like we need to really have, you know, more champions of change and more people fighting for, you know, the good fight to change the narrative, that we're creating content that's more responsible, because ultimately that's what we succumb to. That's what our children are influenced by. We're the sum of all the thoughts we have in a day. And if everything you're consuming on your timeline or in your films and your music, it's this type of message or this type of hate or this type of negativity, that's what you're going to become as a person. No matter how righteous or isolated or independent you feel, you're going to get pulled into it, and you're going to start having those thoughts, and they're going to start as minor transgressions that might be domestic disputes or road rage, and it's going to bubble into other things, the higher tension and stress. Yep. And what have you. So it's like we all have to work towards improving that.
I came up with a, like I'll go walking around during this whole mental health is definitely where I look at, and of the consequences and the damages that the lockdown can produce. And one of the things that I thought of standing in the corner was, what if there was a therapist or a counselor on every corner? So as the person that is on lockdown goes for a walk, the counselor goes, "Hey, how's it going? How you doing today?" And all they need is to just listen while that person talks. Because I think I create groups where we get together and we share physically. Sure. And touch and hug. We all test each other, and we don't wear masks, but we know we're clean. But we get into the, "Hey, how you doing?" And I think if you don't have that, it's important that somehow you're able to share and talk, and to be heard.
Sure.
And because that thing's going to get pent up. And like you're saying, you're feeding yourself throughout the day. The sum of whatever you consume that day, you're gonna output whatever you consume that day. So if you're consuming love, you're going to output love. If you're consuming division, "Oh, look what I heard, look what I read, here's some video, look at this video," and pass it on. This is what I always do. And I delete it.
Because the things that go viral are negative, right? Yeah. The things that people share more, they're not sharing something that's positive or inspiring. Sometimes they do, but more often it's like, as a, and it's part of our human nature too, right? It's rubbernecking and traffic and this glorification of violence, even back to, referencing, the Renaissance period in the arts, like even then, those were the days that they built the Colosseums with the gladiators, and everything was like this bloodlust of, just give the public, this type of entertainment. So it's like, we're all susceptible to it and we're not above it. But at what point do we begin to,
I think you said
progress as a society?
I have to go back to your t-shirt, man. It's going to be about high tech versus just the typical person that goes, the individual that goes and shares, rather than the algorithm.
Yeah.
That individual shares with another individual. And we get back to real people, not, "Hey, here's," like for instance, I'll go to a store, I come back, they're promoting everything. They followed me. They're promoting everything. Even in conversation, I'll be talking with somebody and I'll go spandex. So, Hezues, I gave him the spandex, and then
pops up.
It pops up in my Instagram. So at some point, I think that all has to kind of change, go away, or we'll ignore it and move on.
Sure. Yeah, that would, it's tough. It's tough. There's so many challenges. Just us going through this period of future shock. I forgot the author's name. He wrote like this piece in the 60s talking about us having, in the history of our lifetimes being 800 lifetimes, right? If there's an average age of 62 years old, and you go back, every generation for however many thousands of years. But in 800 lifetimes, only in like the last 5 or 7 lifetimes, there's like, for the amount of lifetimes, however much we had recorded history, and however many lifetimes we had an accurate record of time. We're now just in one lifetime out of 800 that we have this level of technology. So all this is entirely like so new, in terms of the history of our society, that I don't think that our minds are, even though we're adapting to it, like it seems like effortlessly and seamlessly, it's not natural to our psyche. And I think there's so much that we're being influenced by the tech that we're not doing the alternate work to create a balance in how it's affecting our mood, our emotions, and our engagement with each other, right? When everything becomes so digital. Like you said, you have these groups where you feel, touch, hug, and we move to this predominantly Zoom world. And like this isn't natural to us. We
No, it
have
isn't.
so many other sensors and indicators in our body that we had to have: the mood, the energy, the touch, the feeling, all that stuff. It feeds our spirit and our soul. And the lack of that, it's like we're just becoming machines, and we're not designed this way to live our lives this way.
I think it was like we're in our last yuga, their yuga, their measurements of time, and the last yuga is an explosion of technology or something.
Yeah.
I've heard that, and so I've got a quote from John Roger, which I love, which reminded me of it. Do not run your ignorance as information.
Mm.
I find that's a theme with what some people, and including me, can fill my cup with. If I just have that habitual thing because I was around when Facebook first started, and it was about making friends and being friends. It wasn't a news download of news cycle.
Sure.
And I love Apple, and now Apple is a news cycle. So now I have to go, wait a minute, I'm going on here on Facebook to what? I'm going to just play this video that I have a friend called Hezues, and I like to put you in the light. I love Facebook for the simple reason of a lot of our friends can put what they want to put in the light, send good vibrations to a lot of our friends. Know people that, not a lot, a few know some people that have COVID or they're in the hospital. So in the way that we work, we say the name of that person and we send light to them. And so this is more proactive to me than filling my cup up with algorithms, essentially.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely in an age of misinformation. And, I appreciate that quote by John Rogers, because I feel like that's also a problem that contributes to, the mass ignorance. Is a lot of people are parrots. They get a certain bit of information and then they repeat it, like they think they know what they're talking about. And I think it's more important that we process and investigate things before we're so quick to share it.
100%, 100%.
We have to absorb, manifest, and then apply
Well,
that
people,
information.
I took geometry, I took all that stuff, and I once asked Jaron, I go, why Pythagoras? And he goes, well, he was a philosopher. I go, what's the point of that? And he said, it teaches you to think. And I frankly think people forgot to think.
Sure.
You take the information, you use your intelligence, and you say, where did this source come from? If it doesn't come from a source I know, wait a minute, let's just take it in as data. Let me go in. And I think there needs to be some kind of course, art, a class, film. I love film because it reflects back to you, like Shakespeare plays were to reflect back to the court. Hey, maybe you might want to change some of your behavior. Think about
Sure.
it.
Yeah. I mean, then it was a matter of, questioning it and improving it. Now it's just a matter of reiterating some of the negative behavior and making it, it's like we're doing ourselves an absolute disservice on and how we're creating and disseminating information. But to your point about the sharing of information, I think it's I don't know that the idea that we need to teach people to think, that gets lost.
By the way, I had this written down. I'm glad we're talking about it. I wrote in my journal, I'm observing misinformation, disinformation, and even from my ego, me, like the sensitive, loving guy, the guy, I'm good. But sometimes my ego will trip out, which is the ego, and the understanding that I have about my ego is my mind and my emotions, not necessarily my inner heart full of wisdom. but my ego says, well, give me misinformation from the disinformation. So I'm sitting there is no media on, but I'll hear the chatter and I'll start questioning it like if I was the journalist, and I'll say to the negative energy, I'm like, where are you getting that information?
Sure.
You're full of it. That's not right. And then I'll call that person and then I'll just confirm it. It's not true. So sometimes I think, we talk about mental health, I think this chatting voice, the negative criticizer, the ego, whatever it is, it needs to be processed, and it needs to be like taken to the mat. Wait a minute, where are you getting that? I'll call Jesus. See, I could have assumed you forgot you were going to have my you were going to be doing Zoom with me, and then while I was waiting for you, I could start making stuff up. Oh man, who does he think he is? Oh man, so there I am getting misinformation, disinformation.
And on my side, I'm excited and I can't wait to talk to you.
Exactly.
I've been looking forward to it all morning.
I think that's what causes the division, also not just in media, but in ourselves.
We're poor communicators. We make a lot of assumptions. A lot of the assumptions we make are sometimes from a point of insecurity. If we have an insecurity about certain things, a lot of times people project their insecurities on other people. I can't tell you how many deals I've seen fall apart. The other ones that I'm looking at from the outside in, just based on a communication. It's like, oh man, these people don't know how to communicate. Like, this person had good intention, this person assumed other things, and it's like, and then there's a reality to it too, because you have so many, snake oil salesmen and middlemen that are kind of just, making everybody in the playing field a bit jaded, because there is just in all industries, right? Like it's not only just bad in the film industry in this one, it's bad in nonprofits. And nonprofits, there's so many. There's one city, I'm not going to name it, where I was trying to advise the leadership in the city, and they had a lot of resources. They had like 200 nonprofits in this one small little city, but none of them worked together, right? They were all competing for dollars, all competing for funding, and had different objectives and trying to, position themselves. And it was, some of the nonprofits, it was about the person's ego. And it's like, man, at the end of the day, this organization is supposed to help the youth. Like, stop making it about yourself, right? Or if you want to go and help and do something, you don't need to create something entirely new that you own. There's other organizations you can work with or that need help. I think, and maybe on our next call, if we do this again in the near future, I have something else I'd love to share with you, or maybe I'll just share it with you offline. But I have this principle of 4 E's, and it goes into
say it now. Do it now.
I'm sorry.
Share it now.
I'll have to find it.
But tell us the principles. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I have kind of a perspective of each one, but it's ego, emotion. I'm drawing a blank here. Ego, emotion. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm right here by my computer. I don't know how accessible I have it, and I don't want to have you on hold because I'm actually writing a book as well. Let's see where I have.
And where can people watch the Asian Mob?
Asian Mob, here, so I'm sorry. It's the 4 E's are energy, ego, expectations, and emotions.
Yeah.
Emotion. And I don't have where would I have that? I have it written down a couple places. I don't have it right here, but it's something I would love to share in terms of how these 4 E's, if you create a balance between these 4 E's, you can change everything in your life. And it all comes from, expectations we were talking about it earlier with the assumptions that we make or the insecurities we have. And then that's all set up by our expectations. And then our ego has a say in it, and then the energy that we have. And and how we control or balance our emotion, impacts all the other three. So there's a kind of interconnected synergy between them. But part of it is like, I remember roughly one of my ideas about validation. It's like you always, like people have this need to feel like they have to get their point out, and a lot of times it's not necessary. It doesn't make a relationship, whether it's an intimate or business or professional, it doesn't always serve the progress of the relationship, right? There's that saying, happy wife, happy life, or sometimes it's like it's better to just be happy than to be right, or like we don't have to always fight for what we to validate a certain point. Sometimes you could just let things go and you'll find a lot more peace. Choose your battles, if you will.
JR used to say sometimes it's better to just shut your mouth.
Hey, look, that's the simplest and cleanest way to say it. Just shut your mouth.
He would say when you're working with someone, maybe you just don't say anything. And I used to say something, and he used to say, look, the best thing you can do for someone is leave them alone.
Yeah.
Because you're antagonizing, you're poking at them, you're bullying them, or you're giving them some kind of point of view that maybe they don't want to hear it.
Sure.
Unless invited,
Yeah, I the older I get, early on in my career, I just stopped trying to sell myself, right? I just, just kind of was like, what's for me will be for me, what's not won't. And the more success you have and credentials, and you just stop, excuse my language, but giving a fuck so much about so many things. And even just in entertainment, I feel like just in a business side of entertainment, when you shop your IP, you burn your value. Like, you should just never be outwardly.
What's IP mean?
Intellectual property. So whatever you have, it's
that's a great quote. Repeat that again. When you shop your
IP, you burn your value.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just like, if you're confident and your shit's good, I'd rather go somewhere where I'm wanted and in demand than have to like exert so much effort trying to sell myself or convince somebody of the value.
That's
if I know my value, there's somebody out there who's going to want it or need it, or they're going to recognize it. So many people have their head in the sand, and they wouldn't know a good thing if it hit them in the face. And you really have to protect your circle and your energy, because these other things we talk about, confidence and assumption and whatever, it's like you could be the most amazing person in the world, but if you're just around the wrong people, they will devalue you and tear you down, and you won't be living the life of abundance that you deserved, or that you're blessed because you have a good heart or whatever other reason. You're just being manipulated and used and whatever. So you have to be very protective of your space and your energy to align yourself with other people who value you and understand your importance in the world. And that's just so important, because if we have a world full of just insecure people who are devalued, then the interactions, we see what that is leading to. So the more that people are, like you said, you put people in light, and the more people that they're in their light, then we all shine brighter.
Well, thank you, man. I think we're coming to the end here. I just wanted to just say love and light, and I'm asking JR Energy, the Christ energy, to just be there for all of us, your family, your friends up there in New York. Where you at, in Brooklyn or?
I'm actually in Jersey.
Jersey. I was raised in Newark. I understand. And
Yeah.
Where are you at in Jersey?
And West Orange.
Nice.
So yeah, I was in New York for years, and I had so many studios in New York. I opened the first film studio in the Bronx, and but once I started having babies, I wanted to have a little breathing room and get away.
So love to you, man, and I'd love to do this again when you have this other going.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And love you. Is there anything you want to say, or you want to tell people about what's next for you, and then we can close it?
Not as much about me. Just love and light to everybody who's watching. I personally, appreciate you, and I admire you so much. And it's been a blessing that I was fortunate enough to meet you in this lifetime, and you sharing with your thoughts and your views, because good people are far few and in between that we meet in our lifetime. Sometimes I'm susceptible to becoming, really jaded, and as much effort that I make, you come across some like really shady people that it just like discourages you to the point where you feel like, man, is there enough good people left in the world that it's worth it for me to just like do all this shit and like try to make this effort, right? But when you meet somebody like you, it's refreshing, and it helps kind of reinstill like what you're doing is for, right? That there are good people out there, that there are people who want to make the world a better place and shine light on other people, that humanity deserves to survive and grow and flourish. We just needed to help heal a lot of the people that are hurt out there. And that's one other thing I wanted to address, is this cancel culture. If half the country votes for one person, half the country votes for the other person, like you can't just throw out all the other people. Like we can't, or if somebody does something wrong, like we have to get away from this cancel culture of like, okay, this person's done and we're just writing them off completely. We have to start to understand where that ignorance came from and help to heal it and address it and rehabilitate people, or
Thank you.
enlighten people.
Because I constantly push, look, we got to love the 80 million that voted for Trump. You can't just throw them out. That's throwing your babies out. They're your children.
They're friends, they're family members, they're your neighbors. Like, when we talked earlier about this being divided, like the commonalities, we live on the same street, we live in the same neighborhood, the same country, the same way. Like there's so many things that we have in common that we could be at odds for, right? We could be at odds for a million other different things, from being different age, different part of history, different part of the world. Like, but we're like right here, we're in it together, and we need to look at life that way, and we need to support each other.
And lastly, I just wanted to tell you, I love that, the cancel culture, man. That is so, the way you put that together. The thing that Jerry he was also my mentor for acting and movies, and he would tell me the biggest bullet that the negative power has, because it's there to make us strong, it's not there to kill us. The big bullet that it has to take us down is discouragement.
Yeah.
And it's a bullet that's hard to swallow, but I encourage everyone that when you feel the discouragement, give it a couple days, it'll be over, because it isn't real, but it is a powerful tool to take you down, the discouragement.
Yeah. I mean, more than anything, it's a mood, and our moods change, and people need to understand your moods change. Just how you feel highs, you feel lows.
Yeah.
If you obsess over the low, the more you obsess over it, the more you're going to be stuck in it. When bad things happen, I don't obsess over it, but I do process it. I don't run away from it. I really just feel every part of my body just get into it, almost as if I'm trying to enjoy it in a way, right? Like somebody recently, I saw a quote, they said something about, how long do I have to be in the dark, or, before I could see the light? And like the response was like, you're going to be in that dark until you learn how to see in the dark, right? So it's not always about, or one of my favorite quotes is from Stanley Kubrick, however vast the darkness, we must supply our own light. So, the idea, thank you for saying that about, changing, that it's because it's a mood, right? That discouragement, don't let that discouragement burden you. The same way you got into it, you can get out of it. Have more positive influences around you, people around you who are about light and love, and you can get out of it. It's not something that's temporary. Every problem is temporary.
Well, listen, in the words of Benjamin Franklin, don't curse the dark, light a candle.
There you go.
I love
another one to add to my collection. I love it.
I love you, Jesus.
Love you too, brother.
Like,
thank you so much.